everybody. Happy Friday. This is Carly Bond, President of Tennessee Mortgage Bankers, and I'm proud to introduce to you our lobbyist, Tony Thompson. Hey, Tony.
Hey.
So Tony comes with a lot of experience. He has over 26 years experience and represents a variety of companies, and he is a graduate of the University of Memphis Law School and Belmont University. And so, Tony, we're going to get to know a little bit more about who you are as a person, and then dig in and let you share with us what you do for Tennessee Mortgage Bankers and all its members. Sound good to you?
Yeah, that sounds good. Sounds good.
All right. So tell me, Tony, on the weekends, where would we most likely find you?
Oh gosh, more than likely you would find me close to home. I was able to build a log home out in the woods about 20 miles from the state capitol in Cheatham County a few years ago. I've been here almost 3 years, and when I'm home, I just don't even want to leave. And so this whole pandemic quarantine thing has just been right up my alley.
I was going to say, you're good at social distancing then at this point.
Yeah. So I'm usually around here. But if the weather's pretty, you might find me if I'm not, messing around working outside. I'll be on my motorcycle, my Harley, and riding the back roads of Tennessee.
Well, that sounds fun.
I love doing that. Or, you could see me walking down this country road I live on with my dog, like a crazy person, because nobody walks dogs around here.
What kind of dog do you have?
I've got a big black Labradoodle. His name is Boomer.
Oh, I had a Boomer. We had a Boomer growing up.
In fact, Boomer might show up during this interview at any time.
Well, awesome. Well, tell me, Tony, name somebody that you have viewed as a mentor in your life and why.
I guess that question, there haven't been a whole lot, honestly. The primary person I would have to say would be my father. And he, he was only 17 years older than me. And so it was still a father-son relationship, but it was, I got to see him kind of over the years from when I was very young, see him kind of in action, working, handling himself, and interacting with people that were happy and not happy with him, and watched how he handled himself, and so I think he was very much, without getting into all the family history, but he was a worker. And that's what he did. And so in terms of my work life, I hope that I attained his integrity and his work ethic and the way he handled himself professionally, and for his clients. Yeah. He was this is going to be an offbeat answer, but it's honest. And he also was a mentor to me in terms of family life and raising kids, because he was gone a lot when I was growing up. And that influenced me in the opposite way. It made me really want to be there for my kids as they have grown up. They're in their 20s now. But in a backhanded way, he influenced me a lot on how to raise my kids, and just influenced how much time I wanted to be with them.
Yeah, he was a great man. Very great.
He was
well respected.
He was well respected and admired, and from people from both sides of the aisle, and that when I first started lobbying, it was shortly after he was elected, and The Democrats were in charge in Tennessee, and that didn't matter because everybody loved Fred, and so it was very heartwarming, for me to encounter all these people that said, your daddy was the first Republican I ever voted for, and
Wow.
that was pretty cool.
So what keeps Tony Thompson up at night? Does anything keep you up at night?
You mean besides Netflix right now?
Yeah.
Yeah. Two things really. Work when session is going on. It's 24/7, and it's in my brain and in my head, and I can't turn that off when that's going on. I am always kind of plotting and scheming and thinking about what I need to do and what I should have done, and like everybody with their work life, but it's just so compacted that I sleep very little during the legislative session.
Yeah.
That's one hand. The other thing that would keep me up at night would be my kids. My son's 28 and my daughter's 25, but they're finding their way. And my son's actually a licensed attorney now and clerking for a judge. My daughter works for a big corporation here in town, but that's what keeps me up at night is either work or kids.
I'm in the same boat. That would be the same for me. So you
That's
mentioned
true for
Netflix.
most people.
Yeah. You mentioned Netflix. What are you watching on Netflix that keeps you up?
Oh gosh. Well, last night I was watching Narcos, so that's an old one, but somebody told me it was really good, and so I've gone back and started watching that. And but I've got several things on my list. I watched Ozark and all the other ones that most people have now. But if you hadn't seen Ozark, that's really well done.
So I hear. I haven't watched it yet. So Tony, why don't you explain to our membership what you do on a regular basis for TNBA, and then share a success that we've had in the past in stopping a bill from getting passed that would have been detrimental for our industry.
Okay, well, generally what I do, I serve as your eyes and ears and mouthpiece in the halls of the state legislature. And I do, 95, 99% of my work with the state legislature and the executive branch, the governor's office and all his various departments. But in terms of TNMBA, it would be the financial institutions department. But that process, is if you're not familiar with the legislative process, there are about 2,000 bills introduced every year that could potentially impact, they do potentially impact some industry or entity or group of people or organizations. And so what I do is I go through those bills when they're introduced and call them out and to try to determine which ones I think might impact. I try to sweep a broad net and figure out which ones might impact the mortgage banking industry and put them on a list that I track. And the last few years, there's been probably between 30 and 40 bills each year. And I track those bills and also keep up with when they're on calendars, committee calendars, and when they're going to be heard. And if they're set for a hearing and if they impact us, then my job is to go and talk to the sponsors of the bills and the committee members and reach out to other people, perhaps the banking industry, to see if I can build coalitions and find friends that have similar or the same interests that we have, and try to create a joint effort when I can. But that's what I do, is try to influence the outcome of legislation. That's exactly what a lobbyist does, is tries to influence legislative or administrative action. And in terms of successes, we've had, I don't think we've had anything bad happen to us, and that when I say that, I guess what I mean by that is there have been lots of bills introduced that have been harmful or that we were opposed to, which we were able to either stop or to amend and put into a form that was more acceptable to us, and we've had lots of legislation that we've worked on over the past few years. The PACE bill, which is the Property Assessed Clean Energy Bill, was one thing that we stopped a couple of 3 years ago. Maybe it's been more than 1 year. It's come up, but this current session we're in, they've moved from an effort to use that legislation towards residential properties and now are focusing on commercial properties, and we think we're going to be okay with that one. But there's a list of bills if you want me to mention anything. But part of what I do too is to send out a report each week and get on calls and work with a committee of a few people on legislative issues where I can get answers to my questions, because my expertise is in what I do and who I know and the process. It's not in mortgage banking or in any field of clients that I represent. And so I have to rely on you to help educate me on what our positions are and why we have those positions.
Well, I'm going to tell you, you've done a fantastic job, and we really appreciate everything that you do. When we went to Day on the Hill this year, we had some great meetings. I mean, fantastic meetings. And we walked in the room and they knew exactly who we were and why we were there. So why don't you explain to everybody, the importance of staying in front of our legislators?
Yeah, absolutely. There's, lobbyists are often fighting against another lobbyist representing an industry or an interest on the other side of an issue. And it's one thing when a lobbyist is battling with another lobbyist, kind of just me and one other person going toe to toe sort of in our meetings with members and trying to influence action based on our word, our credibility, and what we think, our clients need to have. But the most difficult thing to come up against is when someone has grassroots, and what I mean by that are people back home that live in their district or work in their communities, provide a service in their communities, that vote and possibly even donate money to these campaigns. That is the most effective thing that I can either use for me, or it's the most effective thing against me if I'm on my own trying to fight something. And so it's really important. Day on the Hill has been great. It's grown over the years, and we've been able to meet with key members of the House and Senate and key members of the committees that have jurisdiction over our issues, and we've had a great turnout. In fact, this past year there were so many people I was worried about even having enough meetings for everyone. So we may need to make it a little more exclusive next time, or raise the cost of attending.
Well, I know you mentioned the importance of having money for campaigns, and I'm glad you brought that up, because I was going to ask you, this year we did a campaign to raise money for our PAC, which was very successful. So why don't you explain to our membership, what that money is used for and how it benefits them to contribute to our PAC?
Yeah, you guys did do a great job. I don't know what the balance is today, but it's more than double what it was. And not to say that we don't need more and continued contributions to the PAC, because that's something that will constantly be depleted and need to be replenished. But everybody knows that money is the lifeblood of a campaign. And so it takes these legislators money to go out and run an effective campaign, to pay staff if they have hired staff, and to buy T-shirts and brochures and do direct mailings and host events. It costs money. Some people even are on TV, especially in the Senate races that cover a larger district. And so it's expensive. Campaigns have gotten more expensive over the years, and they've raised the contribution amounts over the years. And so they're raising more money than ever. And what that means is that in order to be competitive, you want to have a presence in that regard. And so what I try to do is just identify key people on committees and in leadership that sort of the same ones generally that we might try to see on the Day on the Hill exercise, but identify the people that we can give to, and I try to treat that money as if it was my own, and I don't spend it foolishly or don't recommend things that aren't really worthy, and try to treat it as it was my own and frugally.
Well, I know this being an election year, what do you envision this year being like, and how are we going to be able to use that PAC money to help benefit our industry?
Well, it's kind of yet to be determined. It's a strange year with the pandemic, and everybody's just trying to getting their hands around what the campaigns are going to be about and how many will be strong, challenged campaigns. If it's not that bad, what that might mean is maybe we can give a smaller contribution and reserve some funds for later use. But it's really a little early. We're going to be looking at that very soon, because candidates can start raising money actually in 2 days. I believe May the 15th is the day that they can, although when they come back into session June 1st, during this unusual time, they won't be able to while they're in session. But I would imagine by the end of June, the mail requests will be flying.
Yes, I'm sure. So what do things look like presently on the Hill? I know they're not coming back into session until June 1st, so I guess everybody's just hunkering down. But do you expect any bills that didn't get reviewed prior to session, everybody leaving? Will they review those, or what do you expect when session comes back?
Yeah, that's it's still to be determined. They adjourned in mid-March until June the 1st because of the COVID-19 pandemic, and set that date June 1st back. And so now we're getting closer to that. Obviously, today is May the 13th, and the House is talking about having committee meetings beginning on May the 26th, which is 2 weeks from yesterday. And the Senate is talking about coming in on June 1st, taking care of budget matters and anything that might have a positive fiscal impact for the state, and taking care of any other COVID-19 related legislation or items that they might need to take up, and getting done and getting out of there. Frankly, I hope that's what they do, because I don't think it's a safe place for the public to be. I'm considered a member of the public. They didn't let us in the last week they were there, and I'm thankful for that. The House of Representatives, on the other hand, they're talking about kind of business as usual, taking up all the remaining bills. There are still several bills, that we have our eyes on and have been working on that would fall under that category. And so it's going to be fast and furious if the House gets their way in a COVID-19 environment, which is going to be very strange and probably not feel very safe. Or, it's going to be short and sweet if the Senate gets their way, and we just don't know yet.
Wait and see. Well, Tony, I just want to thank you so much for your time, and this won't be the end, because I know you have agreed to come back and let us do a live webinar so that people can actually ask you questions from our membership. And so I just want to thank you again and look forward to our next interview with some live questions from our members.
Sure. Thanks, Carly. And thank you and the entire membership for the honor and privilege to represent you all at the Capitol. It's been a true pleasure. The people are wonderful, and I look forward to talking with you soon.
Sounds great. Thanks, everybody. Have a great weekend.
Hey, guys, this is Tony. Thanks again, Carly, for the opportunity to speak with you today. And this is just to follow up and give a preview that you're going to have the opportunity to ask me anything, I think is what some people would like to do. You may not want to hear the answers, or you may not get an answer, but you're welcome to ask me anything on a date coming soon.